The rain had been falling for hours, turning the city into a place of blurred lights and soft echoes. Water rushed along the streets, splashing against the pavement and running into the gutters. From his small apartment on the fourth floor, Arun sat quietly, listening to the steady rhythm of raindrops hitting the windows. He had always liked rain, but tonight the apartment felt too heavy, too quiet, and he felt a need for fresh air. He pushed the window open and stepped carefully onto the fire escape. The metal stairs were slick with water, and the cold air rushed against his face. The city stretched below him, lights glowing in yellow and red, blurred by the rain. Arun leaned on the railing, letting the drops touch his hands. For a moment, he thought he was alone, until he noticed a figure sitting a few steps down. At first, he thought it might be a neighbor. The person sat with their back slightly turned, shoulders still under the falling rain, not even trying to shield themselves. When the figure lifted their head, he saw her face clearly. She was not human, at least not fully. Her features were soft yet different, her eyes brighter than the city lights, and her skin faintly glimmered under the rainfall. Arun froze in surprise, gripping the railing a little tighter. The girl looked at him calmly, as if she expected him to be there. "Do you always step outside in the middle of storms?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Arun blinked. "Sometimes. It feels quieter out here," he replied. She tilted her head, studying him. "Quieter? Strange. The rain is loud to me." Arun gave a small laugh. "It's a different kind of loud. Not the kind that hurts your head. The kind that makes everything else feel smaller." The girl seemed to think about that. Then she shifted slightly, making space beside her on the step. Arun hesitated, but something in her calm expression told him she wasn't dangerous. He carefully sat down, leaving a respectful space between them. The cold water soaked through his shirt, but he didn't mind. "I'm Myra," she said after a moment, turning her gaze back toward the glowing city. "Arun," he replied. "You're not from here, are you?" Her lips curved in the smallest smile. "You noticed?" He chuckled nervously. "It's hard not to." For a while, they just sat in silence, listening to the rain. Arun felt strangely at ease. He had never met anyone like her, yet he wasn't afraid. Her presence felt steady, almost peaceful, as if the storm itself had brought her there. "Why are you sitting out here in the rain?" he finally asked. Myra brushed wet hair away from her face. "Because it feels real," she said simply. "My ship is broken. I cannot leave yet. Your world is strange to me. Too much noise, too many people rushing. But when it rains, it feels honest. Like the sky is telling the truth." Arun looked at her, surprised by the way she spoke. He wasn't sure he understood everything, but he felt the meaning behind her words. He nodded slowly. "I think I get it. The rain makes things feel different. Like time slows down." Myra turned to him then, her bright eyes studying him carefully. "You understand more than I thought you would." That made him smile. "Maybe because I spend too much time out here myself." Lightning flashed in the distance, followed by a deep roll of thunder. For a second, the fire escape glowed white under the flash, and Arun caught a clearer glimpse of Myra. She was beautiful in a way that didn't seem human, but not frightening. Her presence reminded him of stories about stars and distant worlds. The rain poured harder, bouncing against the metal steps. Arun pulled an old umbrella from behind the window, opening it carefully. He held it above them both, though it barely covered. Myra looked up, surprised. You don't have to, she said softly. I know, he replied. But it helps. For the first time, she laughed. It was light, almost like music carried between raindrops. Humans, she said, shaking her head. Always trying to fight storms with little cloth and sticks. Arun grinned. Maybe. But sometimes small things make a difference. The moment was simple, yet something in it felt larger than either of them. A stranger from the stars, a man from the city, sharing a fire escape in the rain. Neither spoke much after that, but the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the steady sound of water, the faint hum of the city, and the quiet knowledge that something unusual had begun. For the first time in a long while, Arun didn't feel alone. The next evening, the rain returned. It wasn't as heavy as the night before, but enough to paint the streets in silver and send people running with umbrellas. Arun had been restless all day, checking the window again and again. He told himself it was silly, that last night had just been chance, but deep down he hoped Myra would return. As the street lamps lit up and the city grew softer under the drizzle, Arun opened the window and stepped back onto the fire escape. The cool air touched his skin, carrying the fresh smell of rain. At first, the steps were empty, and disappointment settled in his chest. But then, as he leaned against the railing, a soft sound made him turn. Myra was already there, sitting a few steps lower, her gaze fixed on the glowing horizon. She wore the same calm expression as before, as if she belonged in the rain. You came back, Arun said, his voice carrying surprise and relief. I wanted to feel this again, Myra replied without looking up. The rain is different each night. Tonight it feels lighter, almost playful. Arun smiled and moved closer, though still leaving space between them. I thought maybe I wouldn't see you again. Myra tilted her head, finally meeting his eyes. Why? Because people, or travelers, usually don't stay long in the city, he admitted. Her lips curved faintly. Perhaps I am not ready to leave yet. The words settled gently between them. Arun felt something stir in his chest, though he didn't try to name it. Instead, he opened the umbrella again, holding it over them both. Myra gave him a knowing look, shaking her head. Still fighting storms with cloth and sticks, she teased. Arun laughed. Maybe it's just an excuse to sit closer without getting soaked. Myra blinked, then gave a small laugh of her own. At least you are honest about it. They sat together, watching the rain slip down the sides of tall buildings. Cars below splashed through puddles, and far-off voices rose and fell like waves. But on the fire escape, everything felt quieter, almost hidden from the rest of the world. Tell me about the city, Myra said after a while. Arun thought for a moment. It's loud. Always moving. People are always in a hurry, always working or running somewhere. Sometimes it feels like no one has time to stop and breathe. Is that why you come out here? She asked. Yes, he admitted. The fire escape feels like another world. Out here, it doesn't matter if I don't have all the answers. I can just be. Myra studied him carefully. Strange. My people travel through stars, yet they do not stop often to breathe either. Maybe all living beings forget to slow down. Arun turned toward her, curious. Do you miss your home? Her eyes softened, glowing faintly in the dim light. I do. But there is something here that feels different. On my world, the sky is always clear. There is no rain. No sound like this. It is beautiful in its own way, but it does not touch you the same. Arun tried to imagine a sky without rain, without storms, without the smell of wet earth. It seemed empty. Then I'm glad you can see this, he said quietly. Myra nodded. So am I. The umbrella sagged under the weight of water, and Arun shook it lightly, making droplets fall around them. Myra laughed softly again, the sound warm despite the cold night. Tell me something else, she said. Not about the city. About you. Arun hesitated. He wasn't used to talking about himself. But something about her steady gaze made him want to share. I grew up not far from here. I wanted to be a painter once, but life got busy. Now I work in an office. Numbers and screens all day. It pays the bills, but sometimes I feel like I left part of myself behind. Myra listened closely, not interrupting. When he finished, she said softly, perhaps the part you left is still waiting for you. Maybe sitting here in the rain is your way of searching for it? Arun blinked at her words, surprised at how true they felt. He had never thought of it like that. And what about you? He asked gently. Why were you traveling before your ship broke? Myra looked out at the city again. Because I was searching too. I wanted to see worlds beyond my own. To feel things I could not feel at home. Perhaps, to find something I did not know I was missing. Their eyes met once more, and for a moment the rain seemed to pause around them. Neither spoke, but both felt the weight of the silence. The night stretched on, but neither seemed in a hurry to leave. They sat under the umbrella, strangers from different worlds, yet bound by something simple: a fire escape, a storm, and the quiet comfort of being seen. For Arun, the rain had never felt more alive. For Myra, Earth had never felt more like a place worth staying. The days passed, and each evening seemed to bring rain. Sometimes it was only a light drizzle, sometimes heavy storms with thunder rolling across the sky. But no matter what the weather was like, Arun found himself stepping onto the fire escape each night. And almost always, Myra was there before him, waiting quietly as if the fire escape belonged to both of them now. At first, their meetings were filled with small talk. They spoke about the rain, the lights of the city, or how the air smelled different after a storm. But slowly, their conversations grew deeper. Arun began to notice how Myra's eyes lit up whenever she asked questions about human life. Why do people build such tall buildings? She asked one night, looking up at the towers glowing against the dark clouds. To fit more people into a small space, Arun explained. The city keeps growing, and land doesn't. So we build higher. Myra tilted her head. Strange. My people build outward, not upward. We like to see the horizon. Arun smiled. I'd like that too. Out here, all I see are walls of glass and stone. Another night, she asked about music. Arun told her about the old songs his father used to play on the radio. Myra closed her eyes as he hummed a soft tune, and when she opened them again, her face carried a thoughtful look. Your songs feel alive, she whispered. We do not sing in my world. We only create patterns of sound for communication. But this, it carries feeling. Arun felt a warmth in his chest at her words. He had never thought of music that way, but hearing it through her perspective made it seem magical again. And so, night after night, Myra's curiosity pulled her closer to the world she had once only passed through. And Arun, without meaning to, found himself waiting for her questions, eager to share whatever pieces of his life she wanted to know. One evening, the rain came down harder than usual. The fire escape was slick and noisy, but they still sat together, the umbrella resting above their heads. Myra leaned forward slightly, watching the raindrops bounce off the metal steps. "Tell me about your family," she said suddenly. Arun hesitated. He didn't talk about his family often. "My parents live far away now," he said softly. "I don't see them as much as I should. I guess life keeps moving, and we all get busy." Myra tilted her head, her expression soft. "Do you miss them?" He nodded. "Yes. But sometimes it's easier not to think about it. Missing people can hurt." Myra thought for a moment before replying. "In my world, we do not live in separate homes. Families stay together, even when they grow older. Maybe that is why I find your world so strange. You have so much connection, but you let it drift apart." Arun looked at her quietly, feeling the truth in her words. "Maybe we forget how important it is until it's too late." The conversation left a quiet space between them, filled only by the rain. Arun watched her as she reached out a hand and let a raindrop fall onto her palm. Her skin glimmered faintly, reflecting the city lights. "Do you ever get tired of answering my questions?" she asked softly. Arun shook his head. "No, I like it. It makes me see things differently. You make me think about things I forgot to notice." Myra's lips curved into a gentle smile. "And you make me feel less alone in this place." The honesty in her voice caught Arun off guard. He looked away quickly, focusing on the blurred lights below, but his heart beat faster. He realized he was starting to look forward to these nights more than anything else in his day. Another evening, when the rain had eased into a light mist, Myra shared something of her own. She told him about her people's sky gardens, floating high above oceans, where plants grew without soil. She described colors Arun had never seen, lights that shimmered like moving stars. As she spoke, Arun imagined the world she came from, so different from his own, and yet in her voice he heard the same longing he often felt for something more, something beautiful and out of reach. "Do you miss it very much?" Arun asked when she finished. Myra's eyes grew distant. "I do. But sometimes I wonder if leaving was what I was meant to do. Perhaps the stars wanted me to find something beyond what I already knew." Arun wanted to ask what she meant, but the words stayed in his throat. Instead, he nodded, understanding more than he could explain. The rain thickened again, pattering softly on the umbrella. Arun glanced at Myra, who was watching the storm with a thoughtful expression. Their eyes met, and neither looked away immediately this time. For the first time, Arun felt the pull of curiosity not only toward her world, but toward her. He wondered what she was thinking, what she felt sitting beside him night after night. Myra's gaze lingered for a heartbeat longer before she looked away, though the faint curve of her lips told him she wasn't unhappy. The fire escape had become more than just a place to breathe. It was now a place of questions, answers, and a growing bond neither of them could deny. And though the rain poured endlessly around them, both felt that something far brighter had begun to take shape. The city storm had a rhythm of its own that week. By the time evening came, Arun no longer wondered if Myra would appear, he trusted she would. Every night, the sound of rain on the windows pulled him toward the fire escape, and there she would be, waiting as though the space had always been theirs. One particular evening, the storm came fierce and wild. Rain hammered against rooftops, and the wind howled between buildings. Arun almost thought Myra would stay inside this time. But when he stepped out, umbrella in hand, she was already there, her hair plastered to her face, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "You'll catch a cold," he said, holding the umbrella above her head. Myra turned toward him, her expression calm. "I do not fall sick as humans do. But thank you." Arun sat down beside her, the metal steps trembling under the storm. The umbrella shook in his hand as the wind pressed against it, but he held it steady, determined to keep the small circle of shelter around them. For a while, they didn't talk. The storm was too strong, too loud. Lightning cut across the sky, followed by deep thunder that rolled through their bones. Myra didn't flinch, but when the fire escape rattled sharply, she shifted her weight, gripping the railing. Instinctively, Arun reached out and caught her hand. Her skin was cool, smoother than human skin, yet soft. He hadn't meant to hold on, only to steady her, but the storm faded for a moment in his mind as he felt her fingers curl slightly around his. Neither of them moved right away. The rain poured harder, soaking his shoulder where the umbrella didn't reach, but he didn't care. Myra looked down at their joined hands. "Humans touch so easily," she whispered. "On my world, it means something rare." Arun's throat tightened. "It means something here too," he said softly. Their eyes met, and for a long moment, the storm outside seemed smaller than the quiet storm between them. The temptation to hold on tighter, to not let go, pressed heavily in Arun's chest. He wondered if Myra felt it too. Finally, she gently pulled her hand away, though not with rejection. Her gaze lingered on him, thoughtful and almost uncertain. "Perhaps this fire escape is not only shelter from rain," she said. Arun tried to smile, though his heart was racing. "Maybe it's shelter from everything else too." The tension slowly melted into quiet laughter, light enough to cut through the storm. They went back to watching the city together, but the air between them was different now, warmer, fuller. Later that night, when the rain eased into a steady drizzle, Myra leaned closer, speaking softly so only he could hear. "Do you ever wonder why you come here, night after night?" Arun glanced at her. "At first, I came to escape the noise. Now, I think I come because of you." Myra didn't answer right away. Instead, she studied the rain as if it carried answers she was not ready to give. "It is dangerous, what you say," she whispered at last. "Dangerous?" Arun asked. "Yes. Because I may not stay forever. Because humans and my kind, we are not meant to meet like this." Arun's chest ached at her words, but he didn't look away. "Maybe. But sometimes the things that aren't meant to happen are the ones that matter most." Myra's eyes flickered with something unreadable: fear, hope, or maybe both. She didn't argue. Instead, she leaned back against the railing, letting the rain soak her hair again. The night stretched on, filled with questions neither of them dared to speak. Yet something unspoken hung between them now, stronger than before. The simple companionship of rain had grown into something deeper, something neither fully understood but both felt. As the storm finally began to fade, Myra rose to her feet. "I should go," she said quietly. Arun stood too, wanting to stop her but unsure of what to say. She paused at the window, looking back at him. For the briefest moment, her hand brushed against his again, just enough to leave warmth behind. Then she slipped inside, leaving Arun alone on the fire escape with only the sound of dripping water. He stood there for a long time, heart pounding, staring at the empty steps. The rain no longer felt lonely, it felt like a reminder. Something had shifted between them, something fragile yet undeniable. And as he finally closed the window behind him, Arun knew the fire escape was no longer just a place to escape the world. It had become the place where his heart had begun to change. The storms did not stop. Each night the city wore a blanket of rain, and each night Arun stepped out, expecting Myra to be there. Sometimes she was already waiting. Sometimes she arrived a little later, stepping lightly onto the fire escape as if the storm had guided her back. For Arun, those evenings became the most important part of his life. But one night, the mood was different. Myra's usual calm expression was gone. She stood near the railing, her face turned away, as if she was carrying something heavy inside. "You're quiet tonight," Arun said softly as he opened the umbrella and sat beside her. She did not answer right away. The rain drummed against the umbrella, the rhythm steady but somehow colder than usual. Finally, she spoke, her voice lower than before. "I received a signal today." Arun's chest tightened. "A signal?" Myra nodded slowly. "From my people. They have found my location. A ship will come soon to take me back." The words landed like a heavy weight between them. Arun gripped the umbrella tighter, staring at the wet streets below. He had known she could not stay forever, yet hearing it spoken aloud felt different. It was as if the rain itself had changed, falling harder, sharper. "How soon?" he asked, his voice barely steady. "I do not know exactly. Days, perhaps weeks." "But soon," Myra said, her gaze still fixed on the distance. Arun swallowed, trying to push back the ache rising in his chest. "That's good, isn't it? You'll finally go home. Back to the place you've missed." Myra finally turned toward him. Her eyes glowed faintly, but sadness dimmed their light. "I thought it was what I wanted. I have been waiting for this moment since my ship broke. But now," she paused, looking down at her hands. "Now it feels different." Arun looked at her, his heart racing. He wanted to ask what she meant, but he feared the answer. Instead, he whispered, "Different how?" "Because of you," she said softly. The rain seemed to grow louder at her words. Arun's chest tightened, a mix of joy and pain rushing through him. He had felt it too, this strange connection between them, but hearing it from her made it real and far more painful knowing she might leave. He tried to smile, though it was weak. "I don't want you to go." Myra's eyes softened. "And I don't want to leave without saying this. These nights with you, they changed me. I came to your world by accident, but staying here has taught me something I didn't expect." Her words should have warmed him, but instead they cut deeper. Arun looked away, watching the water drip from the railing. "But you will leave anyway. That's the truth, isn't it?" Myra hesitated before answering. "Yes. I cannot deny who I am, or where I come from. But it does not erase what I feel here." They fell into silence. The fire escape, once their shelter, now felt smaller, as if the storm outside was pressing against them. Arun's mind filled with questions. What would happen when she left? Would he ever see her again? Was this bond only meant to be temporary? He wanted to ask her to stay. The words almost reached his lips, but he stopped himself. It wasn't fair to ask someone to abandon their home, their people, just for him. And yet, the thought of losing her hurt more than he expected. Finally, Myra reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand. This time, she did not pull away. "Do not think of the ending before it comes," she whispered. "We still have nights left. Let us not waste them with fear." Arun looked at her, the sadness in his chest mixing with something softer. She was right. He couldn't control tomorrow. All he had was this moment, this rain, and her hand in his. They sat like that for a long time, the umbrella barely shielding them from the storm. The city moved below, unaware of the quiet struggle happening on a small fire escape high above. As the rain softened into a steady drizzle, Arun finally spoke. Then let's promise something. Until you leave, we won't hide how we feel. No more pretending this is just about the rain. Myra studied him for a long moment, then nodded. A promise, she said. Her voice carried both strength and sadness, but also a quiet hope. The night ended with silence, but it was not the silence of strangers. It was the silence of two hearts caught between closeness and distance, knowing time was against them yet unwilling to let go too soon. When Arun finally went back inside, the window closed behind him, his chest felt heavy. But he also carried a strange determination. The rain might bring fear, but it also brought them together. And as long as she remained, he would not waste a single night. The storm that night was unlike any before. Rain crashed against rooftops with such force that the city almost disappeared behind the sheets of water. Lightning lit up the sky again and again, followed by thunder that shook the walls. Most people stayed inside, safe and dry, but Arun could not. His heart had been restless since Myra's words the night before, and when he heard the storm roar, he knew he had to go to the fire escape. He pushed the window open, the wind rushing inside, carrying the sharp smell of rain. Stepping out, he almost expected Myra not to be there. Perhaps the storm was too much, even for her. But she was. She stood without shelter, her hair soaked, her clothes clinging to her frame, her eyes glowing brighter in the flashes of lightning. You came, Arun said, raising his voice above the storm. So did you, she replied, her words carried by the wind. He hurried to her side, opening his umbrella, though it was almost useless in the wild rain. Water still poured down their shoulders, but it felt less harsh when they stood close together. For a long moment, they didn't speak. The storm surrounded them, wild and unbroken, but between them was a stillness, a pause. Myra's face was serious, her eyes fixed on the horizon as if gathering courage. Finally, she turned to him. Arun, she began, her voice trembling though strong. I cannot keep silent anymore. If I leave without saying this, I will regret it forever. Arun's chest tightened. His hand gripped the umbrella harder, though his heart beat faster than the thunder. What is it? Myra took a deep breath, the rain running down her cheeks like tears. You have changed me. I came to this world only as a traveler. I thought I would wait until my people returned, and then I would leave without looking back. But the nights with you, the rain, the way you listen and share your world with me, these things became part of me. I cannot pretend they do not matter. You matter. Her words broke through the storm, louder than thunder in Arun's ears. His throat felt tight, and for a moment he couldn't speak. He had imagined this, hoped for it, but hearing her say it made his chest ache with both joy and fear. Myra, he said at last, his voice shaking, I feel the same. From the first night, something about you stayed with me. I tried to tell myself it was only curiosity, that you were different, and that was enough. But it's more than that. Every day, I wait for the rain just to see you again. I don't want you to leave, not without knowing that you mean everything to me. The umbrella shook under the wind, nearly slipping from his grip, but neither of them cared. Myra stepped closer, her eyes wide, her expression soft with relief and something deeper. I feared you would not say it, she whispered. I feared the same, Arun replied. For a moment, They simply stood there, the rain crashing around them, both of them soaked, yet neither feeling the cold. The storm seemed to fade in their minds, leaving only the sound of each other's voices, the truth finally spoken. Myra reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it touched his. This time there was no hesitation, no pulling away. Their fingers intertwined, and the warmth of that small connection felt stronger than any shelter. "I do not know what will happen when my people arrive," she admitted. "Perhaps they will take me, perhaps I will have no choice. But I wanted you to know before that moment comes. Whatever happens, you are part of me now." Arun squeezed her hand tightly. "And you're part of me. Even if you go, nothing can erase this. Not the distance, not the stars." Lightning flashed again, painting the fire escape in white light. The thunder followed, but the storm no longer frightened them. Their hearts were louder. Myra's gaze lingered on him, full of both longing and sorrow. "Then let us not waste what time we have," she whispered. Arun nodded, his chest full of both pain and hope. No more wasting time. They stood together under the broken umbrella, letting the storm rage around them. For the first time, the fire escape no longer felt like an escape from the world, it felt like the center of it, the only place that mattered. As the night stretched on, they spoke softly, sharing dreams and fears, laughing between the rumble of thunder. They no longer hid behind small talk. Every word was honest, every silence full of meaning. By the time the storm began to calm, the city was washed clean, glowing faintly under the wet sky. Myra and Arun still stood side by side, their hands joined. The rain no longer felt heavy. It felt like a promise. The storm had finally softened, leaving the city glistening under the faint glow of streetlights. Puddles reflected the scattered lights, and a gentle mist hung in the air, carrying the fresh scent of rain. Arun leaned against the railing of the fire escape, still holding the umbrella, though the sky had cleared enough that it was no longer necessary. Myra stood beside him, her hand brushing lightly against his. Neither spoke at first. Words seemed small after the night they had shared, the night of confessions, of truths revealed in the middle of a storm. Yet the silence was not empty, it was filled with understanding, with the quiet knowledge that something precious had begun between them. "I should prepare for them," Myra said softly, her gaze toward the distant city. "My people will come soon. I do not know if I will leave tomorrow or the day after, but I must be ready." Arun's chest tightened. He had feared this moment, yet somehow seeing her speak calmly made it more real, more bearable. "I understand," he said gently. "But I want you to know, no matter what happens, what we shared matters. You matter." Myra turned to him, her eyes shining faintly in the misty light. "And you matter to me," she whispered. "Even if the skies take me away, this city, these nights, they will stay with me." For a long moment, they looked at each other, the world around them quiet now, the rain replaced by a soft hush. Arun thought about all the nights spent together, the small talks, the laughter, the confessions under storms, and realized how much she had become part of his life. "Then promise me something," Myra said suddenly, her voice both firm and tender. "Promise that you will remember this. That even if I am gone, you will not forget the rain, this fire escape, or the nights we shared." Arun reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers once more. "I promise," he said without hesitation. "And I promise, Myra, that no matter where you are, even among the stars, I will not forget you. This, us, it will always be part of me." A soft smile spread across her face, one filled with relief and warmth. She squeezed his hand lightly. Then let us make one more promise, she said. No matter what happens tomorrow, we will not regret what we feel tonight. We will face the future with courage, knowing we gave our hearts honestly, without fear. Arun nodded. We will. And maybe our paths will meet again. I will wait for that, if it comes. Myra's lips curved into a brighter smile, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the city below. And I will, Arun. Even if it takes time and distance, our connection, it is stronger than I thought. I will remember. For a while, they stayed like that, side by side, hands joined, looking at the city washed clean by the storm. The fire escape, once a cold, wet place of solitude, had become the symbol of their bond, a place where strangers had become something more, a place where two hearts had found each other amidst chaos. Lightning flickered faintly in the distance, though it was no longer part of a storm. It reminded Arun of how unpredictable life could be, yet how moments of beauty could appear unexpectedly, even in the harshest weather. Myra seemed to feel the same, her gaze thoughtful yet calm. I should go inside now, she said at last, though neither moved immediately. Arun held her hand a little longer, not wanting to let go. I know, he said. But before you go, let's promise one last thing. No matter what, we will not let fear of the future take away what we feel now. Myra nodded, her hand pressing gently against his. It is a promise, she said. Slowly, she stepped back toward her apartment, leaving their hands touching for the final heartbeat of that night. Arun watched her move, feeling both the ache of parting and the warmth of the promises they had made. The fire escape seemed quieter now, but it held their memories, the rain, the confessions, and the laughter. When the window closed behind her, Arun leaned against the railing one last time, staring out at the misty city below. The rain had stopped, but its memory lingered, just like Myra. He smiled faintly, knowing that whether she stayed or left, something had changed forever. And in that moment, Arun understood that love, even brief, could shine brighter than the storms of life. It was not about holding forever, but about cherishing what had been shared and trusting that some connections are too strong to fade completely. The fire escape, the rain-soaked nights, and the city lights became his anchor, a reminder that even in distance, hope remained. And somewhere beyond the stars, Myra carried the same thought, their bond as enduring as the memories of storms and the promise they had made together.